Alright, today we're going to talk about families a little bit, chapter 13. Just like the last chapter, this one doesn't have a lot of meat to it. It's interesting and we'll talk about it, but it doesn't have a lot of meat, same as we just saw. Obviously, families are complex. We refer to all relationships in families are bidirectional. That is, of course, children affect parents and parents affect children, and they influence each other in complex ways. The relationship between siblings can affect the relationship between parent and child, and so clearly families are big. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of reasons for them, a lot of roles, and there's extended families, nuclear families, etc. The parent-child subsystem is bidirectional. The marital relation subsystem, of course, that right, sibling, whatever. Okay, you can read that stuff. Okay, this is interesting. Two dimensions that help to describe how effective parenting is. I don't know if effective is the right word, but ways to sort of categorize parenting. Parental warmth and parental control. Parents can be categorized as being either high in warmth or low in warmth. Of course, this is a continuum, as everything, and we find that you can fall anywhere along this continuum of warmth between very warm and very not warm. And so we can categorize it that way. And then parental control is the degree to which parents set limits, enforce rules, and maintain discipline with children. And this also can be thought of as along the continuum from high to low. You can have firm limits, or you could have high levels of control, low levels of control in your life. And what happens is these four together. These four parenting styles together that is to say, those well, in fact, here on the next slide, much easier to say, those parents that are warm and have firm control are considered to be authoritative. Those that have firm control but they're very cold and they're sort of rejecting or something is more authoritarian. Okay? And so we find that there's these four different styles of parenting. And this is a misnomer, by the way. We might be able to say that a parent tends to be in one of these four ways, but I can guarantee you from years of experience, this is situational. Some days I'm this way, some days I'm that way, and it depends, again, on many, many other factors, including my relationship with my spouse or my relationship with my work, or how things are going at work, or whether or not I got a bad mail or something like that. So clearly this is situation specific, though there are tendencies. The best, I'm going to use this air quotes, I know, the best type of parenting is authoritative parenting. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. You have to monitor the children. You set clear standards, high expectations. I try my darndest to be an authoritative parent. And I think that most of the time I probably am, but there are clearly times when I fall short of this. Okay? Communication is a two-way street with authoritative parents. Children that are raised by authoritative parents tend to have all kinds of positive outcomes, including self-esteem and independence. On the other hand, though, there are the other ones, authoritarian, firm control, but you do so in a way that's rejecting. That is to say, you set the rules and you have high standards, but you don't ask your kids for input or something like that. Kids can feel angry and trapped in this type of relationship because they don't have any say in the matter. There are high expectations that they might not feel that they can get. Permissive parents are trouble. Trouble. Look at me. I didn't mean to say that one kind is better than another, but permissive parents are troublesome. And permissive parents are, well, in fact, here's a mantra I like to give. If you as a parent are trying to be your child's best friend, you're doing your job wrong. And that's what permissive parenting is really all about. They'd rather be a parent than a friend, or a friend than a parent. And it's like, sorry, buddy, your job as a parent is to do those things that, in fact, are unpopular, those things that the kids don't enjoy. Well, too bad, so sad. That's how it works. It becomes difficult to maintain. I mean, if you can be an authoritative parent and still be popular with your children, now that's lovely. But my number one goal is not to be friends with my children. On the last style is rejecting or neglecting parents, and this sounds terrible. You know, they don't set limits, or unresponsive. They just, it's almost like there's a kid in your house, and this is something that happens if parents are very, 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 very busy, or if perhaps they really didn't want their children, whether they'll admit it or not, or if they have not sufficiently grown up and are not willing to make the sacrifices required to raise children. This is a bad setup for the children. It creates bad situations. Discipline. Ooh, haha. Techniques to teach children appropriate behavior. Most people think discipline, they think punish. Smack that ass. Bang. Alright? But it's more than that. Sometimes it involves that. Okay? But it's more than that. And so we can have some discussion about different types of discipline. We can talk about reinforcement and punishment. This is just, you know, Skinnerian principles. And basically, we can refer to reinforcement as techniques or things which increase behaviors. In other words, if your kid's doing something good, you reinforce it, and it'll increase the amount of times that behavior is exhibited. Punishment, on the other hand, is a way to reduce behavior. If your kid is doing something you don't want, punishment will help to ensure that the frequency of that behavior will, in fact, go down. So these are different, you know, different ways. And we could talk about all kinds of different ways. Punishment, by the way, comes in two different flavors. I mean, so does reinforcement, but punishment comes in two different flavors. We can punish a child by adding something the kid does not like a spanking. Or we can punish a child by taking away something the child does like, such as time out or something like that. Okay? Okay, so, oh yeah, here. In the long run, spanking is not effective. I'll tell you, even Skinner said spanking is not effective. He says the main problem is that spanking often is reinforcing to the person given the spanking. Okay? The parents are frustrated, and sometimes, in fact, they hit harder than they intend to. I'll tell you, there are times for physical discipline. There are times for that. I can tell you that the point of discipline is to teach your children right from wrong. And so I'll tell you very briefly, when my kids were very little, I still remember my daughter reaching her hand into the electric socket. She was maybe, I don't know, 8 months old or something. Bang! I mean, it was hard, it was fast, it was heavy. And she cried. She cried her ass off. But I needed her to associate the action, or to associate that electrical outlet with pain, all right? Because there's no way, I mean, one mistake and that kid is dead, right? So clearly I needed to stop that in a hurry, and in fact, that's exactly the way I would teach a rat or a pigeon, okay? Now, as my kids get older, however, I'm able to use more logic and more rationality, and I'm able to discuss more, and I'm able to use discipline as a way of teaching right from wrong, not just modifying behavior. Okay? Modifying behavior is important, don't get me wrong, especially when, you know, we're talking about sticking fingers in a light socket. But in the long run, discipline's purpose is to teach right from wrong. It's very difficult in some families, however, that if the parents don't know right from wrong, discipline by definition is not going to be an effective thing, right? Or it's not going to produce results that society wants, whatever that might mean. So, what should parents do? Use discipline to teach rather than punish. That you need to change up your techniques. Be patient, big time. Manage the situation. In fact, this is very interesting. This is not just appropriate discipline for parents, but this is appropriate discipline for teachers as well. Manage the situation. Reduce opportunities for misbehavior. set clear rules. You set ahead of time, before the problems happen. You decide what is and is not, and you don't overburden the kid with rules, okay? You try to keep it simple and try to be clear about it, though children like to try to skirt around that. Don't forget, even if you're using discipline in the punishment sense, be sure to praise good behavior too, okay? Not only to provide the reinforcement, but also to let them know which behaviors are acceptable. Because, I mean, with traditional discipline, what we're going to do is teach the children what's inappropriate behaviors. And that's all lovely and everything, but you also need the other one. Use reasoning and explanation as much as possible, and try not to add spankings. Taking away something is always a good technique. Taking away the kid's car keys, right? Yeah. Or timeout or something like that. If you do use timeout, it's generally recommended that you use approximately 1 minute of timeout per year of age. Kids really, really don't like timeout. When you put them in timeout, they'll cry. It's really bad. It's like, what did we do? No, kids hate timeout. All right, so new forms of tension accompany the transition to parenthood. Oh, hell yes, okay? Parenthood comes with it hidden costs that nobody talks about. Everybody talks about, oh, the joy, the bundle of joy. It's a bundle of shit, okay? And you gotta clean it, and you gotta sterilize everything, and a new mother is a freak, okay? A new mother's a freak. Every single thing in the house must be sterilized, top to bottom. I mean, I swear to God, I spent 10 hours a day sterilizing everything that was going to come into contact with my baby. That was the first one. Second one, whatever. Even within the second one, you drop the bottle on the ground and the dog licks the front of it, and you go, well, the dog only made 2 licks, so it's probably okay, right? So marriage gets strained. A lot of people think, a lot of marriages that have problems, they think if we have a baby, it'll bring us together, it'll bring us closer. Being a parent really sucks. I mean, I love being a parent. That was a boo-boo. No, it comes with hidden costs. You lose your individuality, you lose your freedom, you lose your ability to just talk to your spouse. I mean, kids have ears, they're always listening. It's just horrible, okay? Not only that, but work outside the home. All right. So who works outside the home? Clearly, both spouses in most marriages nowadays. When children are born, couples tend to move toward more traditional gender roles. I will admit that this was true when my kid was born, but my first kid in particular, but even my second one. But I don't know, because my wife wasn't working at this time, and it was the logical thing that she would take care of. I mean, when the kid cried at night, it wasn't my job. That one I'm not doing, right? I'm a good daddy, don't get me wrong. I'm a great daddy, but I just did not take care of crying kids in the middle of the night because I had to get to work. She did not. So that was clearly that was a one deal that I really stuck with. All right, I let her go with that one. So fathers tend to work more hours outside of the house because babies are expensive. When fathers play with their children, it's playtime, it's interaction, it's rough and tumble, it's roll around time. Moms, the time they spend with the kids are much more likely to be feeding and dressing and bathing. Yikes. Mothers are also more likely to transport children to daycare and school, to help with homework and to supervise play. Really, when I wrote this lecture in the first place, I was sitting in the parking lot waiting for my son's cello lesson. So I don't know about this, okay? This is a little funky in my family because I'm the one that picks him up from school. I'm the one, but I'm not bitter. Coparenting refers to the manner in which mothers and fathers work together to parent their children. Yeah, this is not always an easy thing. Parents don't always agree on their style. Child rearing. And even when they agree on their style, they have different moment-to-moment attitudes. Even if they agree in theory on some larger perspective, moment-to-moment there's still issues. Say, just this morning, my wife just goes off to work, and my daughter comes up and says, oh yeah, by the way, Mommy said I could have ice cream. And I'm like, it's 8:30 in the morning, and your mother said you could have ice cream. She did. She actually said the kid could have ice cream. I mean, how am I supposed? What am I supposed to do? Be the bad parent and say no, you can't have ice cream? Because there is no possible way I would have said yes to ice cream at 8:30 in the morning. So what am I going to do? And the kids worked this out, by the way. The kids got this worked out. They are going to play it up like crazy, and it increases the strain on the marriage in the first place. They're going to find ways to make the parents work against each other. Okay, they're going to find ways to they will go to see what they'll do is they'll do things like they'll go to one parent and one parent says no, and so then what they'll do is they'll go to the other parent and the other parent says yes, and then the kid does it, and then the first parent says, hey, why are you doing it? And then they say because mom said yes. Well, yeah, but dad's already said no. If dad said no, then you're not even allowed to go ask mom, okay? Because that's just how it works. And so then the kids learn, okay, mom says yes more often, okay? Because mom is distracted. Mom tends not to pay attention to what they're asking. Mom tends to say yes. Ooh. Children spend more time interacting with siblings than parents or other caregivers. Yeah, that's interesting, and it's true. Even with my kids, this is probably a true statement. And it's very, very interesting, too, because my kids are 5 years apart, and one's a boy and one's a girl, and yet I in fact, set it up so that they all work together. Because my daughter will benefit greatly from these positive interactions, hopefully positive interactions, right? And my son can benefit from, he can learn patience, he can master skills that he used to just be good at, so they do work together, and it's a way to double up on their stuff. Say, for example, this summer, my son is moving towards taking Spanish. He's going to be taking Spanish in school in the next year, and so I have been having him put together flashcards with Spanish words and stuff, and meanwhile in the car on the way to driving around, guess what, it's time to do your Spanish words, and they're going to do them together. Okay, they're going to work on them together. Granted, I know that she's not getting out of it nearly what he is, however, they're going to get something. Okay. Older siblings help take care of younger children. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, sometimes. My son is now he's starting teaching his sister how to play the cello. I hope that works out, because we had to pay a whole boatload of money for his lessons in the first place. And so now if we can save all of that money on the second set of lessons, that would be awesome. Older siblings, however, if they do bad things, can also have negative influences. Grandparents, I don't know anything about grandparents, because our grandparents are on the other side of the world. My wife's are up in Seoul, South Korea, and mine are up in Wisconsin. So we have nobody. We have nothing around here. We don't have grandparents. They don't provide support for us, and we, in fact, really wish that we had them around. Because unfortunately what this means is that we never get a day off of parenting. We never get to just, hey, drop them at Grandpa and Grandma's house and we'll just take a day and go have a date or something. No, we can't. There is no such thing. And that puts further strain on marriage. But in some cases, children live with grandparents. Obviously, grandparents connect the family across generations, sure. Family rituals, family myths, like stereotypes and stuff. Absolutely. I picked up some stereotypes from my grandfather that thankfully I didn't stick with, because he was a very, 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 very traditional man, and he clearly, in his home, he would work, his wife would not work. At dinner time, his job was to sit down, to put the food in the mouth, and to walk away. I mean, that's it. You would never see him preparing the food. You would never see him cleaning. I mean, none of that. He just didn't do it. I could not imagine my grandfather doing laundry. This is kind of a funky statistic. Married couples living with their children represent less than 1/4 of U.S. households. Oh my, because there are so many situations where there's couples with no children, single parent families, step families, adopted children, so many different combinations that this concept of married children living with their married couples living with their children is 1/4 of the total. Now that's really a weird thing. Each year, there are 47% as many divorces as marriages. Okay, I'm not really sure what that means, but yeah. 61% of children live with both their parents. Okay. Divorce. All right. What do we know about it? Compared to children whose parents are still married, children from divorced parents have lower grades, more disobedience, more aggression, more antisocial behavior. This is all correlational because it feels to me that situational factors which would increase the probability of divorce are the same situational factors that would increase problems in the children, including the lower grades and higher risks of teen pregnancy and stuff. So it feels to me that there are other factors that are driving both the divorce and these issues. I don't think it's the divorce itself that's causing them. I'm sure the divorce doesn't help, and we'll talk about some direct negatives, but this is clearly correlational here. Partly what happens is children sometimes go through parentification. It's a neat word. The child takes on the responsibilities that are handled by the parents. They start to care. Yeah, it could be. And of course, the parenting quality and quantity goes down, especially once you start living in separate homes. The emotional, yeah, all right. Conflicts is detrimental. Okay. Divorce puts a financial strain on families. Yes, it does, which of course leads back to more psychological stressors. Many events turn stressful. Blah, blah, blah. I don't think so, right? Oh, what is this? Yeah, whatever. You read this one. Um, there are some positives too. If there's a lot of conflict in a home, then divorce can perhaps lead to less conflict, which is always a good thing. Um, because, yeah, okay. And then following a divorce, sometimes what happens is more demands are put on children, and it does in fact teach them more responsibility and empathy and stuff. So it can lead to some positive characteristics because there really is more expected of them. Um, and likewise, if in the divorce situation, the parent that one of the parents was particularly antisocial, it's probably a good thing to get away from that parent. Okay? Every child is different, though. 11% of children in the U.S. live in households in which the parents have never been married. Okay? And again, there are some bad outcomes for children in these situations. But just like I had said with divorce, I don't think that it's living in the household with the unmarried couples that is causing the problems, but rather the problems are there is outside factors which are influencing both the fact that they're unmarried parents and the problem. So again, it's a very similar correlational problem. Wow, there you go. Rates of well-educated and financially secure women becoming single mothers by choice is going up, but we don't know much about it. Okay. Single parent family always has one income in this case, so there's in and of itself that's something. Step families, yeah. Mothers that remarry increase the family income. That's a good thing. Um, some groups, yeah. Okay. Most step children actually like their stepfathers. Step families, right, when a father might, as an example, a father might get remarried, they may well start to withdraw some time and financial resources from their biological children because they're of the requirements of their new family. Adoption. Adopted children fare much better than children, similar children that are not adopted, and it's not a surprise because the majority of adoptive families are, I mean, generally speaking, they're vetted, right, so that they ensure that that they have a good enough income. They must have a high enough income, and they're vetted to make sure that they are really want these children and stuff. So clearly, foster parents are generally speaking better parents In many cases, they tried for many, many, many years to have a baby, and they just couldn't. So often, adoptive parents are older and therefore more financially secure. They're, they are the ones that are more likely to have read every single parenting book out there, whether that be a good thing or a bad thing. That is true. Adopted children, yeah, have special problems, especially if the adopted child was abused or something before adoption. And recently we saw in the news a case of a woman who adopted a child from Russia, and the child apparently had some real problems. I mean, problems she couldn't handle. The kid was threatening to burn down the house. The kid was waving knives in her face. And she'd wake up and there would be the boy in the bedroom standing over her with a knife up to her throat or something. And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, and so she takes the kid, puts him on an airplane with a note that basically says, "I'm sorry, I can't do it," and that's it. Just gave him a plane ticket and threw him on the plane and walked away. Yeah, that probably did not make the Russian government happy. But it is. It's true that many adopted children had some serious issues before they were ever adopted. I'm sure that Russian boy grew up in some pretty bad situations. Then, of course, there's a question of open adoption. That is to say, should we let the biological parents know about, or let the children know about their parents, etc.? Lesbian or gay parents, this is an odd thing. As many as 14 million children in the U.S. have lesbian or gay parents. The majority were born while the parents were married, and then one says, guess what, I'm gay. Yep. Okie dokie. There's an increasing number of homosexual couples that are getting a child through artificial insemination, adopting, or other situations. Of course, this is low. These estimates are low because, of course, nobody talks about it. They haven't found any differences between these kids raised in different families. Ethnic minority families have their own little issues to deal with. It turns out that, of course, the racial composition of America is shifting rapidly, or the ethnic population. I don't know what would be the appropriate word, but kind of recently in the news we heard about the fact that white babies are now less than 50% of all births. So that's the first time that's ever happened, and it seemed somewhat significant enough that they put it all over the news. Minority families are certainly fine. Yeah, as we said, not only do these ethnic minority families, many times ethnic minorities are at the fringes of society, at the fringes of the income bracket. They're in the lower income group, so they've got these problems. They've got problems with acculturation, how to raise their children. It's a whole. I can't do it here, but if you ever take the cross-cultural psychology class, I will talk quite a bit of detail about this type of acculturation and how it is for families. Childcare, all right. Childcare is a major problem for parents. It is incredibly expensive. In some cases, in many cases, mothers decide not to go back to work, and it's not because they don't want to go back to work, but because they look at the costs and say, you know what? I will be making $3 an hour once I pay for childcare and gas. So what's the point? Okay, and so they opt not to go back to work simply because of the costs of it, and I understand it too, because I've done childcare with both of my children. With my son, I was lucky. My wife stayed home, and in fact, at first she stayed home with my son because she wasn't legally able to work at that point. And then, as my son was he was 4 years old. We were able to get him into a preschool. In fact, I think we put him in at 3 and 4. I think at 3 years old, we put him in 2 days a week just for the social experience with the other kids. At 4 years old, we put them in 5 days a week, and my wife was able to get a job. Um, and then she got pregnant after that 1 year of a job, and then she decided to stay home with our second child, and it was partly the cost of the child care, but also because we felt that our child would benefit from the interaction and exposure that constant parenting could give her. But anyway, they range, of course. Child care is the most important thing on a parent's mind. It is so expensive. It is just unbelievably expensive. I can tell you that when my daughter was in daycare, when she was in, it was in preschool. There's a difference. Daycare is essentially babysitting. Preschool is really an attempt to educate a child. We put my daughter into a preschool program. It was a pretty decent preschool program. It was Primrose. They had uniforms. It was actually pretty damn cute to see these little kids wearing these uniforms and stuff. But anyway, put her into Primrose, and I want to say it was around $180 a week, something like that. Before Primrose, she had been at a big church. I forgot the name of the church, but anyway, this big church, and they had a daycare center over there. And what you find at daycare centers, or I mean preschools rather, and this is true of all of them that I've come across, and I've come across a lot. They are just brutal. They're ruthless. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go on vacation, so my kid's not gonna come into school this week. Nope, pay us. What? Yeah, if you don't pay us, you can stop coming, no problem. But if you're going to have to re-enroll her, and we may or may not have a spot for her, and of course you're going to have to pay the enrollment fee, which is at least $100. So you have to pay the enrollment fee. And so yeah, I mean, and you're like, okay, but I only need to put my child in between 12 and 4 or something like that. It's like, nope, sorry, you must pay for a full day. You must pay for, yeah, but I want, nope. You're going to pay from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Yeah, but I don't need anything like that. I only need like 3 hours. Tough luck, right? I only need 3 hours 3 days a week. No, sorry, buddy. And it was just ruthless. They were just brutal. Even at the church, they just did not. They had zero. They were horrible people in them. I mean, I understand it's a business, and you gotta do the business, but still, you're in the people business. All right, whatever. I ought to get off my high horse. Here is a percentage of children that are raised, or how daycare is provided, child care is provided, and we see that the percents have been shifting over the years away from parents and relatives. Okay. Yes, attachment, etc. Quality, yes. Again, as I said, there's a difference between daycare and preschool, a major difference, and in the cost of them too. And of course, what this means is that in order to put your kids into the best daycare, you have to be rich. And it's kind of crazy because the best daycare is what gives your kids a head start to get them into kindergarten, get them going on the right path. And so people that are in poverty don't have the money to put their kids on the right path, and so the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I feel very bad about it, but that doesn't change the fact that I put my kid into the best damn daycare I could get away, or not daycare, best preschools I could get away with. Okay? Structural quality, process quality, yeah, whatever. Okay. How many kids are in these different types? Preschools are not so hot. Daycare is okay for infants and toddlers. Oh, no, it's not. It's even worse. Yeah, whatever. It's sucky. It is. It's shit. And it has major impact on our kids, and it's really too bad. Self-care, yes. I am lucky enough now that finally I can take advantage a little bit with self-care. Now, I don't think that there's a hard and fast rule about what age you can allow your children to be home alone. Okay? I don't know what the legal status is on it. Clearly, if you're leaving a 2-year-old home for a week by itself, yeah, you've crossed the line. But let's say I have My daughter is now 8 and my son is 13. I feel comfortable, if it's just my son, I would feel comfortable leaving him home alone all day by himself. Although, I must admit, he would be on the computer playing video games the entire time if I was not there supervising, but that's another story. Um, my 8-year-old, on the other hand, I would never leave her home by herself. However, I will leave her home with just her brother for short times. And I think that this is both a convenience factor for myself, um, but also it's teaching a little bit of responsibility, a little bit, it's actually pretty good if used appropriately, if intermixed with. I mean, the majority of the time my kids have the supervision. Some kids, however, come home with no supervision of any kind, latchkey children, and again, I can relate to this because I was a latchkey child from the time I was 8 years old. I was making my own breakfast, going out to school on my own, coming home to an empty house, preparing dinner. I mean, that's just, I think that though in some ways that's maybe more extreme than it should be, it did teach me some aspects of responsibility that really, really, really stuck with me and are really important factors in who I am. Uh, yes, again, self-care. Some children in self-care are at an increased risk for social, academic, and emotional problems. And again, I don't think it's a self-care that's causing these problems. I think that it is simply those factors that are making some parents resort to self-care because they have no other options are there's something different though. But if you, like I said, if you use it properly, you can teach children reliance, resourcefulness, self-confidence, things of this age. And so you need to think about your kids' emotional maturity before embarking on this. All right, that's all I got for this chapter. We've only got one chapter left, so I will see you for that one, and we'll have a ball.